Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Kevin O'Connor, Director of Sales at Beacon Funding. Thanks for joining me, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. How's it going today?
It's going well, man, and it's great to have you on the program. Is it cooled down at all in Chicago since I
Yeah.
was there 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we had a nice weekend. It was like in the low 70s finally. So things were pretty solid here. We got a nice we just had the air and water show this past weekend, which is always awesome, dude. And it was like as perfect as it could be from a weather standpoint. So we've had at times where it's mid 90s, 100 degrees, but it was awesome this past weekend. So
I was fortunate enough to be out there the year before with the Leventis crew on a boat for that, and that's a really neat experience.
it's cool. It is really cool in Lake Michigan too in the summer, man.
Well, awesome, Kevin. Well, thanks again for joining me. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to kind of jump right in here. And for those people who haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date in equipment finance?
Sure. So my name's Kevin O'Connor. I'm sales director over at Beacon Funding. Born and raised in Chicago from the start. I lived there my whole life inside the city. Um, you know, uh, I think everybody on your show specifically, right on the podcast, everybody you talk to when they get interviewed always says they kind of stumbled into the equipment finance industry. I don't want to say that I'm no different. I kind of knew that it existed. Um, I started working at the Board of Trade like right out of college, and then eventually got into commercial banking. I caddied for 10 years prior, and one of my contacts asked me to come on and work for them. And I found it interesting that they used kind of a third party to kind of process these like individual equipment transactions. So I knew that it existed, but we didn't really process those. We did kind of the larger deals and whatnot. Eventually, I went and worked for one of the clients that we did the underwriting for that had the commercial lines with us. And Beacon Funding, I don't know how to say recruited me per se, but Elizabeth, who's our head of HR here, kind of reached out to me proactively. And as I kind of eventually sat down with Sam and Toby and the leadership team here, kind of understood everything into context, and I wanted to get back into commercial banking. So it was the closest thing that I could get to it at the time. And I really liked the kind of the direction, the vision that they had for the company and specifically the sales department. And I was kind of honored to kind of be asked to help grow that, right? To develop a young sales team and kind of change the way that we went to market at the time. And this was 6, 7 years ago. So eventually I came on board here, and I think the initial task hasn't really changed much. It's been developing and kind of growing a young sales team, refining the product, kind of expanding into new markets when the time kind of comes up. And it's been a roller coaster, man. It's been really, really exciting, and it's changed pretty much daily, definitely over the last few years. I found a home here, and I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic, and thanks for that background because that was it's always one of those follow-up questions, right? Where it's like, well, how'd you hear about this?
Yeah, totally.
So, did you go to school in Chicago as well?
No, so I had a cup of coffee down in Champaign. So I went down there for 4 years. I went to U of I in Champaign-Urbana. So that was the only time I think my address was officially not in a Chicago, Illinois area code. So it was the only time out, but still live here now. I'm married. I have 3 kids. We all live in Chicago still. So,
Perfect. And how far of a drive is that? Pardon my ignorance.
well, far is relative in Chicago, man. You've been here a few times
Well,
too.
no, I mean, I'm trying to get from Northbrook down into the city right now. It's like 4 hours. So I can
Yeah.
imagine what it's like to get to somewhere else. Probably faster to get to Champagne.
Possibly at times, right? I think I'm about 8 miles door to door from my office in Chicago. In the mornings, I can make it in about 10, 15 minutes, but with 90 being under construction, it's about an hour and a half drive home sometimes. So it is a little rough, especially with construction on the main artery, man. You're not kidding.
And then are you finding yourself downtown in that office at all the time, even every
Uh,
day?
3, 4 days a week, I'm down here for the most part. Uh,
Okay.
we got our headquarters is in Northbrook, and then our sales division's down here in the West Loop. So I'm down here for the most part. Occasionally, I'm in the Northbrook office, but for the most part, I'm with the guys on the sales floor.
And I am complete opposite. I want to stay away from downtown as much as possible when I'm in town.
I
So
don't
no,
blame
no
I don't
offense,
blame
no
you. I
offense,
don't
no
blame you.
offense. You have a beautiful office, and we're actually going to be having an EF Cares event there sometime in 2025. We're trying to figure out if it's going to be June or September, but we're excited
Can't
about that.
can't go wrong at either time.
So for Kevin, for the people who don't know Beacon, do you mind just kind of introducing the organization?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Beacon's been around for about 35 years now. I think the numbers I just saw it from marketing, not long ago when we were working on something. We've done them just around 30,000 transactions over the years for a little bit over $1.5 billion. And we actually got our start as a captive in the decorated apparel industry, a captive, so to speak, with one of the main manufacturers, a company called M&R, who makes screen printing equipment. From there, natural evolution into other parts of the decorated apparel industry and the embroidery world, things like that. And it wasn't long until we expanded into vocational vehicles, and other types of kind of compact construction equipment, the septic business, bucket trucks, things like that. Beacon Funding has always been asset first, which kind of drives the rest of our credit decisions and our sales decisions too. So the asset is kind of near and dear to us, and we try to stay in specific industries, in specific markets, because we know them. And I think, I'm sure we'll probably talk about that at some point, but we invest pretty heavily in our remarketing, in our data, in our technology. And we really try to point our sales team and all of our marketing efforts and everything that kind of goes along with that to those specific industries, to those specific accounts and contacts that utilize the equipment that we've kind of come to know pretty well over the years. And they put a lot of time and energy and money and resources into our front end system. So automation is really kind of the key to what we do. So as an organization, it's a lot about efficiency, and it's a lot about improvements and kind of process and product improvements, because we're so niche in the industries that we play in.
Sure. And then we've already talked about this, but you're Northbrook, downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
Do you have employees throughout the states as well?
Yeah, we have employees throughout the states. We have employees out of the country. Beacon Funding itself has about roughly 100 employees, I think, give or take a few on that front. But we do have an office in India too, with I think another 125 employees as well. That's kind of an offshoot of kind of a sister company of ours, Leventis, right? But for the most part, headquarters in Northbrook, our sales divisions in the West Loop, our documentation team is kind of on the East Coast in like the Marlborough, Massachusetts area. We do have some people out in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We got some salespeople in Tennessee, in Idaho, in Florida. We have some of our remarketing and asset recovery people up in the Seattle area as well. So we got people all over the country doing different things for us.
Got you. And then, so traditionally, if my memory serves correctly, Beacon was like a broker. And now, I'm not sure. You said 6, 7 years you've been there, and now you guys are turning inward. You're holding more. Do you mind talking about that experience, Kevin, as an organization?
Sure. So the things that really predate me, I can't speak of too well. I think we were always kind of a direct, right? But I think we, direct lender is where we are very much today, right? We do a lot of our own, almost everything we do is kind of on our own paper and kind of with our own money. So, but in the past, we kind of had kind of a 50-50 split, I would say, on what we do, where half we kind of did in-house, the other half we effectively brokered off, and then eventually we started to discount some of that paper, and now we pretty much kind of fund everything directly and service everything as well internally. Just a small tranche of what we do, we actually will broker, but for the most part, it's all direct, and then we service the paper that we don't kind of finance directly.
Perfect. And then from an employee perspective, you wanted numbers, the average tenure of the organization. Any insight there?
If you would have asked me a few months ago, I would have probably struggled and had to look that up. But we actually just did our mid-year reviews, and I was going through some things on the sales staff. So it's actually kind of in my head now. I think the average tenure of Beacon employees is just about 9 years. So we got some pretty good tenure from our employees. On the sales team, which is more where I kind of focus on a regular basis, I think we have 31 salespeople on staff. And I think 17 of them is the number. 17 have over 6 years tenure with us. And then we recently that number kind of spiked a little bit as we've had a couple new recent hiring classes and some young blood injected into the team too. But for the most part, we have some really good employee tenure here, and people stay. It's a good company.
And then I'm sorry, I'm just kind of firing a ton of questions at you real quick.
Okay.
From talking about those couple new classes that have come in, how are you going out there? What's the hiring practices like? Are we looking for people just downtown Chicago, or is it kind of open up all over the place?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're always, I think as a company in general, right, we're kind of opportunistic. So sometimes things just come up with good opportunities with good people, and we'll kind of jump on that and kind of change the way that we normally do things, right? So I think we hire from a few different fronts, but for the inside sales team or for our direct sales team, we try to get we focus heavily on kind of college graduates, a lot of Big Ten graduates. So we have a lot of people actually in the break room back there on the other side of the office. We have kind of all the Big Ten flags up from schools that everybody went to. We pretty much have almost all of them, at least the original Big Ten, I should say. It's changed so many times now, right? I think college football kicks off in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be like, my head's going to be spinning when I see the teams in the Big Ten, right? It's going to be hard, a little bit of an adjustment, but a lot of local colleges. So the ISUs of the world, the Western Illinois, the Eastern Illinois, we have some people represented here, but a lot of folks from University of Illinois, University of Iowa, University of Michigan, and University of Indiana. So we hire a lot of Big Ten graduates to come onto the sales team here. That's the primary focus for kind of the younger staff, at least.
Got you. And then from an internship perspective, speaking off of those.
Yeah, we do summer internships for the most part. We had a couple winter interns, but I think at least in the sales world, right, we kind of want our interns to experience what it's like to be a sales rep in equipment finance. So it takes some training. So to do that in a 1-month winter internship is a little bit of a challenge. So we've kind of used them more on like the data front or different technologies. We have one intern right now who currently goes to Northwestern that's working for us, and he's doing an awesome job. So we usually have 1 or 2 on staff each summer.
Well, based on how you guys set up your programs, especially in sales, Jeremy needs an internship in college. Like, send him to Chicago for 3 months.
I think that we might take him, right?
Your sales process is definitely a well-oiled machine, Kevin. So I guess while we're on that, so technology and investments in technology kind of help a lot with processes. I think that's one of the things that sets Beacon apart from others in the industry is Sam and Toby and the rest of your team aren't afraid to invest in technology to help automation throughout the entire life cycle of from, I guess, getting a doc, credit approval, everything, even through, like you mentioned before, remarketing. So am I just kind of talking about that, how that impacts your business?
It's a complicated topic to unpack, right? And I think it starts well before even that kind of final end product, right? Data procurement. So not when I started, but I would say about 5 years ago, we were coming to the completion of kind of an MDM project, right? Our master data management, and a lot of it was boring and tedious and hard, and it was data infrastructure, right? I think we always invested in technology, and with some of the sister companies affiliated with Beacon, we had the ability to customize our front end and our back end systems. Probably not like most organizations, right? And I haven't worked everywhere, so I can't really compare it as well. But it starts at the data procurement phase, right? What we're looking for is very specific. How we bring the data in and match to our system. We've spent a lot of different, we've utilized a lot of different resources and tools to kind of match what's in our database versus what we're trying to procure or bring in or append. So we kind of look at data on 2 different fronts, right? There's net new data acquisitions, and then there's data append processes that we put into place too. So it gets complicated, and without getting into the weeds, the goal though is, we want to try and put something in front of our marketing team or in front of our sales team that's ready to be worked, right? That is as accurate as we think it can be and as targeted as we think it can be. And then we understand that throughout the life of bringing that prospect record or the kind of that raw data into the system, it's going to take a lot of impressions and touches to kind of cultivate it and develop it. And that's where our marketing team works with our sales team to kind of move things along. And that's where the automation really kicks into play, right? And the things that we do, both from a go-to-market strategy, from different marketing softwares that we utilize, or different I don't know, kind of phone systems and phone channels that we can utilize as well. From progressive dialing systems to the Genesis platform that we deployed inside our CRM software. There's a counterpart that I work with here, Sean Dunphy, who also kind of shares the role with me that does an amazing job with kind of setting up kind of the phone tree infrastructure. And then our application development team here is fantastic, right? On taking salespeople's thoughts and a sales team's, suggestions and finding a way to make it actionable, right? And then they take things from our credit department and our asset recovery department, and they put them into these front end solutions and front end systems that are, I take for granted. I think a lot of our staff takes for granted because it's all in a couple clicks, right? But I've seen some other operations and it's very disconjointed, right? It's all over the place, and it's one arm isn't talking to the other arm, so it's a little bit more of a struggle. And I think we take that for granted at this place, and all the investment and time and energy in it, and the people in the background that do some amazing work to make our job almost too efficient at times, right? We could get lazy with how how great our resources are here.
No, I mean, every time that Toby's been generous enough to show your platform, everyone's like, "Oh, I want it. How can I have that?"
Right.
And it's like that's like 20 years worth of an investment. It doesn't just happen overnight.
And it's constantly ongoing. I mean, I
Well,
think
it's very iterative. You guys are constantly evolving, changing. So that's phenomenal.
The quest for perfection, right? I don't know if we're ever going to get there, but we're certainly going to keep trying, right? And subtle improvements over time. So it's been, like I said, it keeps you on your toes at this place. So
sure. And then touching on something you were talking about earlier when you were introducing Beacon, the asset discipline, embroidery, vocational, landscaping.
yeah.
I can assume sometimes as a sales professional, when you get some of these other stuff that kind of comes in, you're like, oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But it's not ours.
Yeah. It's a good question. It's a good topic. And I don't know if that's, I'd say there's way more pros than there is the cons to that, right? And I think some of the cons, right, is to that point, it's the initial gut reaction of if only, but there's a reason, I think, why we specialize in what we do and why it makes us really a good partner, and kind of just in general, why we're such a strong company. So I think it allows us the ability to buy really deep, right, and buy really aggressively on the things that we like. We could get creative in our structuring and our program offerings. The data, though, like kind of harkening back to the data, when you know what you're looking for and you know what you want to put in front of your team, there's not as much time waste, right? So things are very efficient, and the process moves really well when everything's on target and everything's, core collateral, core equipment that you're looking for. The pros far outweigh the cons on being kind of asset driven. And I think any of our partners that we work with too kind of understand that too. But I think that's why why Sam's built such a strong company is sometimes you don't need to know everything. You just need to know what you know and stay in your lane. And a lot of times, at least in my young career, I have these, what I think are brilliant ideas, and I get some feedback to the contrary, and I don't understand. I'm like, and then sure enough, a couple months play out, and they were right. It makes sense, and it kind of come full circle. So the pros far outweigh the cons on the niche markets and the asset disciplines, right? So.
Sure. It's that whole, not that they'll ever say I told you so, but you're just like, come on, let me be right. Just be right once. Just once.
Yeah, so I got young kids. I've not recently became a father, right? But like now I get it, right? I told you so. I'm starting to get it, I should say, right? So absolutely.
That's where a lot of times you sit there and be like, go ahead.
Yeah.
I know, you know how it's gonna play out.
Yeah, I told you so, right? I know how this is gonna happen. Absolutely.
I have two, and they're totally different personalities, but Rory's 6, and she's that person that challenges the status quo and everything. So
yeah. So I haven't reached it yet. My oldest is 5, and then I got 3-year-old twins. So we're kind of in the middle of it right now. So it's chaotic and hectic, but it's awesome. And so when mine turns 6, I got to get some feedback from you. I'll compare notes on the 6-year-old journey, right? 5 was different than 4, which is different than 3. And it's amazing what happens every year with the kids. So
is the conversation, honey, let's have one more?
That conversation ended 3 years ago, my man.
Oh, no. But that's what I'm saying. On the second one, was it, let's just have one more, then boom.
Yeah. That's basically what happened. I think it started with we finally started sleeping at night, and you kind of start to get the fogginess goes away.
Yeah, it's 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, we got to have another one, right? And that's like a fun fact about me. So my wife and my oldest share their birthday. So my firstborn son came on my wife's 30th birthday. which was a surprise. He came a little bit early, and we weren't really expecting it quite that soon, but everything worked out fine. So we're very blessed in that front. So again, like about 18, 15 months in or something, we're, what he needs to have a brother or sister. It's time to have another one. And then sure enough, got two brothers and sisters, right? So we got one of each. He's got a boy twin and a boy and a girl twin. But the funny thing was,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's perfect. But their due date was actually also on my wife's birthday initially.
Uh,
Not kidding. So we almost had four-fifths of our family was almost on October 12th. So it didn't work out that way, thankfully, for my wife's sake. But
there are levels of convenience. Just saying, you just rent out one place for four people, and then you get your own birthday.
now imagine if I forgot their birthday. Imagine if I forgot my wife's birthday. Even I couldn't screw that one up.
Uh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I have a 9 year gap, Kevin.
Yeah.
You can imagine.
Yeah, it gets
You can imagine it's where you're sitting there and it's like, oh yeah, that was so easy. It was so easy. Then all of a sudden you have all this additional responsibility plus a little mouth that relies on you, and you're just like, oh man, now what?
You kind of forgot about it, like how hard it was, right? Or maybe not how hard, right? I think they get harder when they get older. I'm not there yet, but everything I've kind of learned so far, I think it's more time invested when they're younger, right? But you almost forget how what it's like to not get a full night's sleep. I think you kind of got out of the weeds for a minute, and then you're back to a newborn all over again.
Yes.
Yes.
Nail on the head, man. I'm gonna switch gears if you don't mind and talk about this right here.
Oh,
Sorry to shove that right in your face, but congratulations on the monitor designation, top 40 under 40. Just wanted to walk through that real quick. What was it like when you received that email from Rita, kind of congratulating you, Kevin?
at first I thought it was a spam email, to be perfectly honest. um, but what I didn't really I didn't think it was real for a second. It was a very cool designation. I was very thankful for the recognition and the honor. But the designation, I mean, it was kind of a byproduct of all the people, all like the other things that I kind of talked about not long ago at this place. So while it's great to be recognized, it's because of the people that I work with. And I think anybody that's kind of been in management in some capacity, right, or kind of led a team or kind of been a supervisor or manager really knows that the numbers or the output is only as good as the people doing most of the hard work behind you. And then the people that kind of work alongside you above and kind of to the side and stuff like that. So, well, it was great. And I'm very thankful and very honored to have the award. I mentioned Sean Dunphy earlier. He's a great guy that I work with that does as much, if not more than me, and is as deserving. And then our head of marketing, there's a girl, Amber Stevens, that works here, is fantastic too. So, I got the award, but it was kind of a team thing, right? So I wouldn't have gotten it if it wasn't for all them doing all the other side stuff. So, very cool. I thought, though, with the monitor itself is that, a lot of the people that are in there on a regular basis and the people that contribute to it and the people that talk at the events, and you kind of learn to look up to them a little bit. So to be kind of mentioned in something that they speak in or that you kind of read on a regular basis, humbling, right? And honored. So, thank you for bringing that up, Jesse.
Hey, no problem, man. I was happy when I was flipping through and I saw it. I think I shot you a text or shot you something via Teams. It's neat, right? And well deserved. You've been running a tight ship there, and you guys do a great job. So it's nice to see accolades given to the right people.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you.
So I'm going to head back to the industry if you don't mind. How are you seeing? I know Beacon's not an OTR, so that not really impacted by that for the most part. But from a vocational perspective, how's the market performing?
I mean, we're performing fine. I think sales. I'd say the number one thing right now is the secondary market is probably where the biggest impact that I'm seeing is being impacted.
Sure.
And the secondary market kind of on two fronts. Dealerships, vendors are less inclined to take assets back in on trade like they were 6 months ago, 12 months ago, especially when inventory levels were low. So I think that's impacting business, right? The ability for customers or for end users, business owners to kind of upgrade is a little bit more of a challenge nowadays. I think the price fluctuations from where they were historically to this massive spike out of nowhere, kind of coming back down, is creating some confusion, right? And I
Sure.
think comparables are important right now. I think the good operators, the good businesses that either took the kind of the money that was out there during COVID and invested it wisely or didn't go crazy on spending are doing just fine. But I think for Beacon, and I can only really speak for ourselves, I think we've always stayed true to our core kind of credit principles. And I think we've made adjustments and small tweaks along the ways because we've been in the same markets and the same assets and the same industries. I think, we're more proactive maybe than the traditional generalist. So it hasn't had a very big impact on us in the current market. I think sales are a little bit flatter than we'd all like them to be. But generally speaking, we've been okay. However, I think our customers are kind of feeling a little bit more than others. And it's in this trickle down too. Like the insurance world is a challenge
Sure.
for a lot of businesses, right? So I think there's a lot of kind of a ripple effect that's going on from it, right? And I don't really know when we're coming out of it yet. But this is kind of the market we live in now. We're just trying to do our best to make adjustments and move forward with kind of the products that we have and the offerings that we have and the credit models that we like to run and stay true to what we do and what we've done for 30 plus years.
Oh, great point. And that's where the asset discipline comes back into play.
Yeah. It's good on our end so far. So
Sure. Sure. And then, so almost, well, 3/4 of the way towards a decade in equipment finance. What are your just general thoughts going to some of these conferences on this industry, Kevin?
good question. I mean, Small Business America is the first thing that kind of comes to mind. I always kind of like when you read the monitor and the first highlight is the 10 or $20 million transaction that somebody's putting out there, the $100 million credit facility that gets put in place. It's great. You dive into it and you read about it a little bit, but then there's 100,000 transactions that just occurred yesterday, right? Not even just micro ticket or small ticket or medium ticket, but just what all the companies in our industry kind of put together on a regular basis. And as I've kind of worked in the industry a little bit longer, kind of seen it from a couple different phases, the equipment financing arm and really is the lifeblood of efficiency for businesses to acquire equipment. And what are your options as a small business owner when you start off? You can't really go to your mainstream local bank or community bank or even a larger commercial bank and get a credit facility that can float your business. No, it starts by getting an asset, I think, for a lot of businesses. And that asset makes them money and eventually they get to hire somebody. And I thought the reason why I wanted to get back into commercial banking in general, what I liked the most about commercial banking out of college was that one loan given to the right business owner has the ability for that business to then hire 3, 4, 5 people, right? And kind of grow a community. And if they kind of deploy the money well, right, it allows them the opportunity to kind of repeat that cycle. And I think the equipment financing industry really is that kind of support system, right? That kind of keeps everything flowing behind the scenes. And it's funny that everybody says they fell into it, but it's so prevalent with the billions of dollars that we shell out every year and all the different businesses that we work with across the country that it's kind of surprising that most people don't even know how big it is and how impactful it is in the industry. So that's kind of what I've gotten from all the conferences and all the events and all the great people that I've gotten to meet and listen to over the years so far. And I think the other component about it is that it's always changing and there's all these subtle changes and tweaks and adjustments to the different companies and different products, right? And there's a lot of good partnerships out there too behind the scenes. So it's usually not just one company that does a lot of things. They work with other great partners that kind of put a lot of things together to make these really good offerings in the marketplace.
Perfect, Kevin. Thank you. My final question I have for you is why should someone in the industry want to do business with Beacon Funding?
Well, I think there's kind of two parts to what Beacon Funding kind of does as a company, right? Well, there's our direct product and our indirect product. So I'd probably separate it. Kind of from an indirect standpoint, using Beacon as a funding source, I would say, we're an independent and it's we've kind of grown through our own evolution as a company over time. So we understand really what goes on behind the scenes in a transaction. So using us as a funding source or using us for a portfolio purchase, we really try to stay in the niche industries, the niche markets that we know really well. But we also know the process that a salesperson or a sales team has to go through to put a transaction together. And we know that things are fluid and things change. And I think us as an organization is open to change and open to making the right partnerships and the right programs fit. So what we start with on day one is really not where our relationship is going to be in day 100 or day 300. So we're going to evolve kind of as the relationship evolves. That's kind of on the buy side of things or the indirect. And then from the direct side of operations with the businesses that we're fortunate enough to work with, I think the numbers sort of speak for themselves where we, year over year, are 60 to 70% repeat customers, right? They come back for a second, a third, a fifth transaction. So we have to be doing something right. And a lot of that is a testament to the sales team individually, and how they work with their customers. And I find it amazing when we try to get feedback and we go to market with a lot of different surveys to understand why customers chose Beacon Funding. It's the salesperson that they talk about, and then it's the lease administrator on the back end that help them kind of do the docs and dot the T's and cross the I's, right? I think I said that the wrong way, but they do a really great job as individuals and whatnot. So I think it's the people behind the scenes too, why we should be considered as a viable solution.
Perfect, Kevin. Well said. Appreciate your time today, man. Keep up the great work that you're doing at Beacon. Congratulations again on the Monitor 40 under 40. And, look forward to our paths crossing probably sometime in the fall. I'm guessing we'll run into each other.
I'll see you soon. When it cools off in Arizona, we'll see you.
It's fair. It's fair. We can come out here. A little golf game out here. But thanks again for your time, Kevin. We'll be talking soon.
Good talking, Jesse. Thank you.
Thank you.